That's
better?
better. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, that is better. Okay. I think is it recording? I think it is. I don't know. All right. It says that
It
it is.
says on the left.
Okay. I lost the screen. Okay. So I was lucky enough to know you guys for so long, and then also to be able to sit down with you and give you a full in-depth kind of discovery around your Kolbe and your human design and you as a partnership and co-founders for your business. And so I just want to kind of interview you on how that impacted maybe what you knew about yourself or each other, and how learning your Kolbe, understanding your human design energetics helped with maybe your working style together, your communication. So I'll let you start, Debbie.
Well, I think it was super eye-opening, because like Mike and I know, like we're very self-aware people, and we know who we are. And like I thought we had a very clear understanding of our working dynamics. But through kind of the conversation with you, there were things that came up and that you brought up that I was like, oh, I've never actually thought about it that way. And so like my appreciation, understanding for what like he is and isn't good at, and like the dynamic we currently have, um, is a little bit, a lot a bit more, I can understand, and I feel like I know how to move forward in a better way. Um, yeah, I mean, and Mike, did you feel similarly?
Yes, and it was also timely because Debbie and I had had conversations over the past, however many weeks prior to meeting with you
Yeah.
about how to improve communication. We've known each other for over 10 years, formed Amplifier almost 5 years ago. So a lot of experience, but there would be new things that would come up where, I'd be stressed, Debbie would be stressed, the way that I was positioning something would create stress, the way Debbie would position something would create stress, with all a baseline understanding of support and uncomplicated rooting for one another.
Yeah.
But how do you get to that final piece of just making sure that you're communicating and working in the most effective way possible? And
Mhm.
when you were going through the information with us, we both would stop you and you go, that's incredible. We were literally just talking about that. And oh, that explains this and that explains that. And it helps. And I mean, I've been mindful since, about even half joking about it, but just because we know each other so well. But, where I'll say, all right, Debbie, I'm going to approach this in a very precise and specific way now that I know how to work with you. But it's been great. I mean, it's really helpful, and it causes, um, it's more productive, but also there's less anxiety
Yeah.
because there's enough anxiety to go around with day-to-day work that the last thing we want to do for each other is create needless anxiety on top of it.
Or
Yeah.
needless work to like where something I can just do. There's no reason that's easy for me or like is my strength. There's no reason for Mike to like be miserable doing it if it's not what he likes to do or his strength. Um,
Yeah.
like just kind of see how we can complement each other with like actionable insights. It was kind of like business therapy, like
Yes.
for your business, but like
Right.
really helpful. Not that therapy isn't helpful, but it was like a one session thing that like, created waves of helpfulness for
Oh,
the
I
future.
love that. I love that.
Too.
So if you think about kind of the challenges you were talking about, and when we talked, it was, your Colbys are nearly identical, right? And so your friction really wasn't necessarily due to differences in your cognitive profiles. It was more in looking at all three parts of the mind and your energetics to say, like, what pieces and parts are we having conflict with? And so if you could describe maybe one of the challenges that you were working through that like after the session was like, light bulb moment, like this is how we can resolve this tension, like you said, like needless anxiety, needless stress. Like how did learning or going through this session help you reposition things or like take things off of each other's plates and understand each other a bit better?
I think, I go first on this, but I think for me, it was interesting that we did have the same kind of score, and it made me realize, okay, there's a lot of things that both of us are not going to be good at or enjoy doing that are very draining for us. So like who on our team is it not going to be draining for? So having that takeaway of like, okay, like we can, like if positioned right, allocate, you know, certain tasks or things that, you know, don't necessarily require our attention to our team. And they won't see it as much of like a drag because it could be something that they enjoy or are very good at doing, like organization wise. But I think on top of that, it was also the way we interact with each other, like kind of understanding that Mike um, reacts in the moment and his reactions are like very much in the moment, but for me not to take it as like a stressor, but to just let him have his reactions and his like gut instincts, because oftentimes like he because that's how he goes with his gut, whereas like I need time to think. So it's like understanding from both of our perspectives that like he needs to be patient with me and I need to like not jump on what he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised, pleasantly surprised actually, that our profiles were so similar. Because one of the things that I know, we see the world the same way. I know that we have similar values, and have, a great relationship. But I would sometimes think, oh, one of the things that's interesting is that, Debbie's better at, which is totally true, by the way, that Debbie's better at certain stuff than I am. And there might be areas where I'm more comfortable. And
Mhm.
so to hear that we were more similarly aligned than I realized was instructive in and of itself. I think the other piece, is similar to what Debbie said. Everything that you were talking about when you would say, oh, Mike reacts this way or Debbie reacts this way, was accurate.
Yeah.
And so, much like the business therapy concept, that's really nice to hear because it feels validating. And you
Yeah.
go, oh, yeah, that is true. That is how I react. That is how Debbie reacts. And this is what the intention behind it is and isn't. So that's really helpful. And I've been trying to, in conversations with Debbie since, been trying to be aware of all that, and kind of the energy that I'm bringing. It has to be authentic because we know each other too well, and it's too exhausting to be
Yeah.
inauthentic.
I was gonna say it's not fun to not be authentic.
Yeah, yeah. So it's all authentic, but instead of me saying, "Oh my gosh, what are we gonna, do about this?" Or "I've got it. We're gonna do X, Y, and Z." That's going to go over poorly. Either one of those is going to go over poorly. So, to say, um, well, let's talk about this. And here's an idea that I have. It might be really dumb. It might be good,
Yeah.
but let's talk about it. I think is a more um, acceptable way of doing things for somebody who's not wired that same way, to be like, yes, yes, let's go for it. And I think it's really good to have that um,
Balance.
because
Yeah.
otherwise, if we're both just like, yeah, absolutely, every idea is great, Amplifier wouldn't exist. It
Right.
exists, almost 5 years because there's been times where mistakes have been avoided or made and learned from.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think for me the most surprising part was like it kind of like it felt like magic. I know it's not like there's like science there, but like I was just surprised because you don't know, like you know us, but you don't know our personal dynamic. But
Right.
just from the human design and just from that, the Kolbe test, like you literally nailed it on the head, which is like I was like, whoa, this stuff works.
Yeah. It's fun because it's like those two systems particularly, like energetics to me is first and foremost. That's like how you interact with the world. That's how you make aligned decisions. That's what your intuition sounds like. That's how you operate with more ease in life. And then once you're initiated into action, your Kolbe comes in. So it's like you need both components. And for me, like although those systems can be maybe complicated, or like you can go down many rabbit holes. Like you don't need to know that much about them in order to really make them work for you and to make it where you have more synergy within your partnership. And so I don't know if you guys have done anything in the past, like other coaching, other business coaching, other assessments or anything like that, but I would love to kind of get your take on, you know, Debbie, you saying like you nailed it, right? So kind of what was your take on this approach, particularly when it comes to um, maybe something else that business owners would be trying or implementing in their business?
Sorry, can you rephrase that? Because I'm
Yeah.
not, I
So
got
a lot of
confused by
businesses
the
like that
business
I've worked
owner.
with,
Yeah.
they do things like the predictive index or the DISC assessment, or they do Myers-Briggs. They do these different types of assessments,
Okay.
or maybe they get coaches that come in and help them with strategy
Okay.
or
That's,
communication. So for you in your business, like how was combining Kolbe and human design maybe different from some of those other approaches, and like what benefit do you think you got out of that after the call?
Mike probably has more experience with those other approaches just because I don't know what
Yeah.
those other approaches are. I've done like the um what was did you say what was one of the
Myers-Briggs.
tests? Yeah, Meyer-Briggs. I've done that personally, but I haven't done any of these things in a business setting. But that's probably also why there's been a lot of issues and like turmoil and people leaving because like it's rare for executives to actually care about their employees. And like I think like that obviously like Mike and I have both been at companies where like there's mass exodus because executives are just not treating employees well, or not really, you know, playing to their strengths. But I mean, I don't know. I don't want to put you on the spot, but like, do you have more
Yeah,
experience with those other types of things?
I do everything from, so it was all pre-amplifier. It would
Yeah.
be in a corporate environment. Sometimes it was, and everything I'm talking about was provided by the company. So everything from a business coach to training sessions like the ones that you've talked about. And there
Yeah.
were a few things that struck me about them. Not that there was no value, but it was where my skepticism maybe came from. Number one is a company would be saying that they were investing in this and actually doing it, but they would continue at the highest levels to treat their employees, leaders, and on down in a very negative and demeaning way. So
Mm.
there's a cognitive dissonance where, oh, it's great that you're doing a business coach or a session about everybody working together in a more effective way, but it's very, very tough to take when 20 minutes before the meeting and 5 minutes after, all the things that you're being told not to do are on display from the same leadership that's paid for the session. So that's
Yeah.
really take. It's tough to make it stick.
Also,
And
I
I
think it's more generalized. Like they
exactly,
don't individualize it.
that's exactly right. I always felt it was very much, this is the program, that these are the slides.
Yeah.
It's
You
kind
fit
of
into this box.
exactly. It's like a sales presentation that hasn't been customized.
Yeah.
And I could see it. So are there valuable lessons or acronyms or whatever to, impart from it? Sure.
Yeah.
But I never felt like, oh man, that's a huge, revelation. And that really, they get me. And most importantly, I never felt this is going to have a change of any kind on my day to day.
Mm.
And that I think when a company is signing up for something to improve how a business flows internally, that's what they're looking for. Otherwise,
Right.
what's the exercise for? And it always felt to me like it was checking a box rather than a real commitment to understanding how to get people motivated, how to get them to work together in a more efficient, responsible, and respectful way.
Yeah.
Like none of that really landed, so it's hard to take it seriously. You know,
It's interesting because I think that was one of the aha moments when I was going through my training with Colby, was that it almost created this simplicity around communication and removed the emotion out of circumstances. And it was like, you could look at this chart and be like, oh, I'm here and they're here. This is why we're having friction. I now understand how they need to operate, and they now understand how I need to operate. And it's not personal anymore. It's like, oh, okay.
Yes.
So a lot of these other systems are, I love every system that tells you more about yourself. Like I'm a big fan of everything like that. But the reason I like Kolbe and Human Design so much is because it gives you actionable strategies that you can actually apply in your day to day. Like you mentioned, Mike, it was like, it's nice to know about ourselves and it's cool to like get a deeper understanding. But when it comes to how do I actually work better with people? I think, especially when you combine the human design component with Kolbe, it really it kind of gives you this new lens to look through and gives you actionable strategic points of view that you can actually apply. And so it sounds like that's kind of like what you're saying. It's like, these other assessments are awesome, but I felt like they were kind of generalized, like Debbie said, or maybe they didn't change the way that I showed up in work.
Yeah, it was attending a session that maybe you got something from, maybe you didn't, but it was as if it never happened when it came to business as usual
Yeah.
afterwards.
I
Whereas
remember
here,
oh, sorry.
oh no, no, I was just going to say, whereas here, everybody wants to feel understood.
Mhm.
But if you take it a step farther, and this is something that Debbie and I think, do share in common, is we want to understand each other and we want to understand any key stakeholders that we're working with. And so if somebody has that curiosity and is willing to actually commit to it, it's extraordinarily valuable.
Yeah.
I was
Debbie,
just
what were
gonna
you gonna say?
add, because sorry, I thought you were finished with the thought too soon. I was just gonna add that one of the questions I asked you when we first got on was like, okay, are there gonna be actionable insights? Like, because I feel so like jaded from doing all these types of things. And I'm like, okay, like, is this actually gonna help? Whatever. But having the actionable insights that are like, okay, so now knowing this, here's what you can do to improve your productivity. Here's what you can do to do this. Like that was super, super helpful.
Yeah.
And so like I just didn't like I've never had that from, you know, any sort of thing like this before. It's like, okay, this is who you are, bye.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting because I'm all for making people's life easier, and it's like we don't actually have to work that hard. And if we just have a base level understanding of ourself and another person, it can go so much smoother. And it's like we don't have to work as hard. And so I don't know, maybe you can share on that thread kind of what was the biggest takeaway when it came to the actionable insights that you were able to like pull away from this and really use to create more ease and synergy within either your own personal life or the kind of the partnership.
Yeah, I think it was understanding each other. So his reaction to something and my reaction to something are going to be very different, but not to, for me, it was not to like let his reaction cause me stress, anxiety that then is transferred to him, and his excitement then diminishes and we're both anxious and stressed when it was unnecessary to be anxious and stressed in the first place. Just like let him have the excitement, because that's where like a lot of his like, for lack of a better word, brilliance comes from.
Yeah.
It's like we wouldn't have this company if he hadn't had this idea and like gotten excited about it.
Yeah. And made the decision right now.
Yeah, made this urgent decision. Yes.
Mike, do you have anything to add about like kind of what the big takeaway was for you other than it being, validating and feeling more personalized than some?
Yeah, I mean, one, I appreciate that takeaway from Debbie. That's awesome because it there's a flip side to everything. So being, you never want to be impulsive or um, make a big decision without really thinking it through. And so I think one, it's understanding each other and the right balancing act that's required, but also just that, oh, that's cool. There's a virtue being seen in this because I've always appreciated and wanted that counterbalance that Debbie provides. It's really comforting and it's important, to know that I might have an idea and I'll even say, oh, it's a half-baked idea or it's not a fully completed thought. And if I do it the wrong way, it could come across as Mike's, committing to something and it's going to ruin the company. But
Yeah.
if I do it the right way, then it could be like, oh, maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's a bad idea, maybe it needs refining. And
But they're
then
always good ideas and like transformative ideas. So it's like stuff that, we end up discussing later. And like instead of my like desire to just immediately shoot it down because the change makes me uncomfortable, like
yeah.
I like have to sit with it.
Well, I understand that. I used to really get stressed in corporate life when things were going well, and then somebody would say, particularly in a position of power, somebody would say, "What
We're
if we did?"
changing everything.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And for them, it was really easy. For me, it was like, "Wait, we got a good thing going. Don't mess it up." And so it's it's different because here it's not, the power dynamic is very, very different in that we do everything together. But still, it's like it's our day to day. And if I'm suggesting something that feels like it's a seismic change, then I need to kind of put myself back in that moment of when I would go, no, don't do that. I know what I'm doing. I don't want to change that. Right.
Yeah.
So I can get that. And then something else that I would just say stands out from the whole experience is I don't know who else is well versed enough in all this to teach it, but I but I do know that Victoria, you specifically are really a singular and exceptional person, and that you're incredibly empathetic. You understand how to communicate. You're a pleasure to work with, and I've worked with you in a variety of capacities. And I think that's as much to do with any sort of assessment of the process. There's the process, which is great, and Debbie and I both saw value in for sure. But there's also value in who's actually doing it, and I think you do a tremendous job.
I
Agree.
appreciate that. That's really sweet. And you reminded me while you were talking about like the way that the reason I like these systems so much is because we tend to operate in the way we operate. We tend to communicate in the way we need to communicate. And in order to have more influence over people, to motivate people, like you have to know how they operate and you have to know how they communicate. And I think knowing human design and Kolbe, like that's exactly what we do, right? It's like, here's Mike's gift. And if Mike is in his zone of genius, this is what the magic is. And this is what Debbie's gift is. And here's how you can bring those gifts out of each other by using a language that you understand, right? And it's not overly complicated. And the way that your conative profiles work, they're the same. So it's like understanding, like when Mike is coming at you with these spur of the moment ideas, that he's already researched it. It's not just like fly by the seat of his
Right.
pants. It
Right.
looks like he hasn't researched it to you because it's a new idea, right?
Yeah.
So just having that awareness that like his process to even come to an idea, it may be a moment, but it's also based on historical perspective and what worked in the past. And it's all, it seems like it can be, you said impulsive. I like to call it intuitive, Mike. I don't think you're impulsive. Um, but I love that takeaway and I love I think it's right. Like I've been in trainings where it's like this person is so boring or they're just not engaging and it doesn't seem like they see me, like
Yes.
and
Yes.
so I think there is a benefit for sure in having that synergy with your coach, like having that ability to talk about the things that are bothering you and to have an open space and to
Like not feel
pull
like
together.
judged. judged or that it's like gonna go anywhere else. You know,
Yeah.
it's like private and like there's trust.
Yeah.
And you love what you do. It's very, very obvious. It comes through in all of it, and that's obviously a more fun experience. So to your point, when I've been in sessions and it's somebody who is kind of going through the motions, they've done it a million times, or there's a well-worn shtick, right?
Yeah.
Like you could just see, like you could see the notes, even though they're not reading from them.
Yeah.
No, that's not what it is with you. It's very in the moment, it's very authentic. And that's something that Debbie and I both, really respond well to.
Yeah.
Uh, it's
Well,
there's a
and
lot, yeah, there's a lot of inauthentic, rote kind of like, oh, here's the acronym and what does that mean? And the same jokes and the same it, it's not that with you.
feels gross.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, and it's fun because like my cognitive strength is my quick start, right? So it's like I like to get in there and then just like see what happens and come up with 1,000 ideas and give you these different
Yeah.
perspectives. And so it energizes me to be in those situations where you guys are saying, hey, like we've worked together, we've known each other 10 years, we have this business for 5. Here are some of the hurdles and challenges that we've been recently experiencing. And we always end up coming out better for it. And we talk about it and we respect each other. And we're never going to be like, that's enough, but can we make it easier? Right.
Yeah.
And so if you could maybe give advice to other co-founders or executive teams in the benefit of doing this, what would that look like? What would you say to other people that are maybe in your similar situation where maybe they've considered something like this, maybe they haven't, but what is something that you would tell them about why they should work with me?
I would say everyone has their value and they could just be miscast. And you have time and money invested in hiring people. You hired them for a reason. Like this is a great tool to figure out how to best utilize your employees,
Mhm.
but also how to like interact with executive teams and become more cohesive and understand each other so that you can actually get things done meaningfully and quickly.
Yeah.
I think that's great. And I think everybody wants to feel understood. I think that's a fundamental part of the human condition, and it's not um, addressed enough in business, right? It's we have a job to do, and let's do it. But if people really are understood, and that includes how to understand communicating with others, how you want to be communicated to, because that's part of it too. Is you might feel, oh, I'm feeling a certain way, but I don't know why. And you go, oh, it's actually because I respond really favorably if
Well, it's
things that,
a need, right? So when we're
yeah,
looking at the cognitive profile, it's not what we want. It's what we need in order to move forward in our process. And so understanding like you need information, right?
yes,
Whereas I need to understand what the big picture is, where we're going, what the vision is. And so if we're communicating to different people on different teams or different parts of our organization, and you're managing change and you're managing how do we put people together for certain initiatives or goals, I'm much more in the camp of, who, not how. Like, don't worry about how it's going to get done. Look at who you have on your team and assess what are the goals of that project and then put the right people in place, because if your goal is innovation and you have a whole bunch of people that are resistant to, change, that's probably not going to go so well. So it's going to be really frustrating. And so I guess any final thoughts, anything that you would leave, um, you know, on this recording that would be something that you would want to let others know or
sure. Yeah, there are a million things to do and people reaching out, telling you to, to improve business, to improve efficiency, to be a better leader. And it's really, really difficult to find the time that just, even if they're good options, to find the time and say, okay, I'm going to actually commit to doing it. And I think this is absolutely worth your while. It's something that you should do. Victoria makes it fun. but also makes it something that's really practical. So for somebody who feels, and most, founders do, who feels like there's not enough time in the day, it's something that can efficiently be done and is really worth the time.
Love that. Debbie, any final thoughts?
I mean, it's worth every penny.
It's so funny because like going to like what Mike just said of it's hard when you're in it to like take a breath and pull out and invest that time in yourself and into understanding. And it reminds me, like, I'm a parent, right? And there's this concept of one-on-one time with your kids. And it's like you do this every day for 20 minutes. And as an overwhelmed working parent, it feels so overwhelming to think about where the fuck am I going to get 20 minutes?
Sure. Yeah.
But you do it, you invest that time, and you're getting so much more time in return. And it feels it's almost like it messes with your mind because it's like you think you have to invest all of this time, but by investing that time, you're relieving yourself of all of the anxiety and the stress and the worry and the planning and the how and all of that that you don't need to go through if you just took a step back and you understood yourself and your team better. And I think that's the hardest part, I think, for most people is to be like, when am I going to get on the calendar for 90 minutes, right? Like 90
Yeah.
minutes is a lot of time for a founder, for a leader. But that 90 minutes of time can give you such a broader perspective of yourself and others and allow you to get so much time in return. And that's really my purpose in life is to get you time back so that you can do the things you want to be doing and the things that you're good at and giving your gifts to the world and feeling less stressed and overwhelmed. And so I just appreciate you guys and I appreciate your willingness to do a little video. And
Yeah. If
I
you
just love it.
want time back on your calendar, book 90 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
PSA.
Yes. You're in your zone of genius, Victoria.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry, we're late to another call, so we have to hop, but we love you.
speaking of
I
time,
tried to
I
put
love
it
you
in
guys.
Slack, but you're
Oh,
amazing.
sorry, I wasn't looking.
Thank you for doing our session.
You're welcome. I'll see you guys soon.
Okay,
All right.
bye.
Bye.
Bye.